Hello and welcome to Zelda Speedruns tonight for another Cross Keys matchup. This one's between Ultyma and GynxyGirl. I have here in the booth amazing Ampharos, and I'll let him take over because he's much more knowledgeable at this than I am.
Thanks, Shadow. Glad to be here with everyone. This is a losers round 1 match, which puts it a little earlier in the bracket progression than many of our other matches, but scheduling needs will be what scheduling needs will be. Both of these runners, of course, should be 0-1, so both are looking for a win to stay alive in the tournament. And we're going through the whole SRL song and dance, waiting for a start, and we'll see what choices they make early on. Looks like we have about a 20-second countdown here. There are really a lot of, I think, viable opening strategies in this mode, so it'll be interesting to see if they adopt similar or different ones. You can end up with some very powerful divergence very early on. Both players going with my favorite Sanctuary start and getting, honestly, a very nice 300 rupees from the first chest. That means the bottle vendor and a 50-pack of bombs will both be just no issue for either at all. And with the start here in CAC, it's all the better. As our first cave is a buyable hint, which with this big money is an easy choice to buy, but then it ends up being a pretty sad hint. There's a handful of those kind of whammy junk hints you can find, and that's just unfortunate for our runners. And we find Palace of Darkness, which, with their current items, they can only get one direct item, but the front of Palace of Darkness is a remarkably good place to farm bombs. As you see, Ultyma knows about that bomb in the northwest pot, whereas GynxyGirl did not, which is a small little thing, but it's probably going to be really advantageous for both runners to farm up, I would say, at least a couple of bombs in this dungeon. I personally would go to 5, but there's a lot of different decisions you can make about how much time you want to spend on slower bomb farms early. But having bombs just makes so many more caves viable to work with. Jinx decided to move on pretty quickly, learned that the Thieves Town Big Chest is nothing of importance at all. Only 5 rupee. What that means in practice is that the Thieves Town Small Key is a completely valueless item in this run. You can often have a lot of difficult decisions to make in Thieves Town about when you want to dive with just the big key, and that's not going to be a factor here. Of course, we don't know where the Thieves Small Key is. If we find it before the big key anyway, this won't matter, but it just simplifies the calculation a little. While both are taking very similar, pretty standard routes through CAC for their starting locations. Checking this restock hut that, in my experience, is one of the easier spots for people to forget. Jinxie's a little ahead thanks to less bomb farming and is finding the Spectacle Rock Connector. Now, you get an item and a hint guaranteed for going through here, and that 10 bomb is totally a payoff for her decision not to farm more bombs early. And we learn there's a glove in Paradox Cave while we're at it. But there's also a big decision to make there, because you can take Spectacle Rock as a connector, and you've already gone about most of the way to take the connector when you get the item. So there could have been a pretty big temptation to do that. And speaking of connectors, Ultyma has found Desert Palace, which is a guaranteed item, a guaranteed hint. You can spy an item on the torch, and you have your choice of connectors. So this is a pretty decently valuable early find, but also a find that gives a lot of decisions to our runners. And we see Ultyma takes, honestly, just flat out the better route through here. The reason you don't cut the corner through the middle like Jinx did is because of that antlion. There's really no easy way to get through those antlions quickly if you don't have some kind of a weapon, and we just don't have that. As our torch spy room shows us, the item on the torch is useless, but Meyer Big Key and Turtle Rock is a reasonably good hint. There's a lot of chests in Turtle Rock that are checked by a wide array of access conditions, but the Meyer Big Key can be a bit of a problem. Ultyma finds that Desert is a very good connector to Northwest Dark World, though there's not too much we can actually do in Northwest Dark World. We can do some bunny walking, but it doesn't tend to pay off that much. Well, Jynx is just leaving and going back to CAC exploration, sticking to a clear strategy of let's clear out these easy CAC entrances, see what we get, probably work toward the Lost Woods for the free item. I think this is a fairly good strategy, as we also learn that one of our desert entrances is the Grassman's house, so that left desert door that leads to the village of Outcast is really the only one of interest at all, while Ultyma just finds connectors after connectors working in the Dark World. That Fairy Ascension connector is takeable and in logic as a bunny. It's kind of a long walk, and there's really a very good chance that connector leads somewhere dumb anyway, either another Dark World location or some open spot that we could have checked otherwise more efficiently. Or, alternatively, it could lead right next door. I don't think we're going to see that connector taken this run by Ultyma. Whereas on Jynx's side, we're doing pretty well. By finding the well, which is one of the main priorities you have early on. Because the well's 5 items, and it's usually accessible with nothing. And right away we get a payoff with a sword that... Swords aren't as big of a deal as new players think, but they are handy. And we get a shovel, which will make routing through the south a lot more efficient. And we see a decision to pick up a bomb capacity upgrade. Now, I don't personally agree with that, because you're kind of saving for Zora. But it might not matter, and 15 bombs versus 10 does make a lot of stuff just a lot easier. In particular, it's really easy if you're kind of sloppy with your bombs to run out in Ice Palace, and even that just +5 capacity basically takes that off the table. Well, Ultyma ended up having to save and quit out of Dark World, and is going to check the east a little early. And yeah, we see an early bottle, which, personally, it's one of my favorite things to see. Just because this means when Jynxy finds Sick Kid, there'll be no issue checking him out. We see Turtle Rock. Jynxy backs out of that. But remember the hint we got, the Meyer Big Keys in Turtle Rock. With a sword, I probably would have gone in there. But Turtle Rock's very scary with 3 hearts and very little helpful equipment. And yeah, another big advantage of Jynxy's route versus what Ultima's doing is we're going to get to check a lot more drops. The Uncle's still out there, which is really good item density. And we're going to get that static item in the woods. The static items in the overworld that are just always there are relatively a much better value, in my opinion, in entrance shuffle than in normal modes. Because finding other items is always a little slower in this setting. But those items, like, the Lost Woods, King Zora, the Hobo, etc., take exactly as long as they used to, so their relative value is increased. And yeah, we saw Desert Final over at Sahas. I don't believe that Ultyma chose to steal the key. And we're not going to be able to do anything with that otherwise until we have both the Desert Big Key and the a fire source. So that could be a minute. Jinxie finding Mini Moldorm and choosing not to release the bee in a bottle. Probably not considering it, but this is one of the single best places to use a bee, so it's unfortunate that the thought didn't occur to her. Well, Ultyma had just kind of more bad sequencing luck, I would say, in finding Mimic Cave, which you're almost definitely going to want to return to eventually in Eastern Palace, which is one of the slowest entrances to walk to, so that's just really unfortunate. But Ultima's kind of checking out some tree pulls here at the castle, checking a drop we haven't seen before, and we have a Uncle Ganon. I always drop into the Uncle Tunnel from the drop entrance and just hope it's not Ganon, so I would have lost some time. While we get some more good news for our runners, as Jinxie discovers the very good news that Uncle is at Lumberjack, meaning the main reason you would usually have to kill Aghanim 1 is off the table. Kind of simultaneously, we learn there that the Uncle is holding the Ether Medallion. Ether and Quake are usually not very good finds in this mode because they're only possibly required to open Misery Mire and Turtle Rock entrances, which have a ton of other access requirements, and it's just one entrance. But they could pay off. Well, Jinxie discovers a reasonably good connector to the summit of Dark Death Mountain. There's not really much you can do in bunny form there, but if Jinxie gets a mirror, that connector is full access to every Light World Death Mountain entrance other than Mimic Ledge. So there's just a lot of value to that all around. Yeah, the third drop we haven't seen is the Lumberjack entrance. We're going to see 2 of the 3 pretty quick here. There is that Lumberjack entrance at Sank. Nothing important, no need to come back for gloves. We'll see if it's Magic Bat or the vanilla Useless Fairy over here, and we'll know whatever's left has to be in the pyramid. So Ultima, as a bunny, walked into the Uncle Tunnel. I didn't see where that was. Obviously somewhere in Dark World, so that could be... Oh, TR left entrance. That's terrible. But that's how it goes, I guess. Yeah, Jinxie doing the Houlihan room. Little does she know she's about to get all the money she could ever need anyway. But the overworld routing was really efficient. There was no way to know there were 300 rupees in this chest. I definitely think Jinxie has had a much more efficient early game route than Ultima, and I think the tracker bears that out. These runs usually take between 2 and 2.5 hours, so 13 minutes in, there's still a lot that could happen. But we do have a little bit of an early lead working here. But we also know, because they've done different things, that you're going to have to make at least a somewhat inconvenient play for progress here. I'm going to guess Ultima saw that hammer, but I didn't at the time. There is a hammer on Lake Hylia Floating Island, which is very interesting. That's going to logically require Flippers, Moon Pearl, Mirror, and access to the main Dark World, which we know we have that via a connector. And we don't really have any of the relevant items yet, so hammer could be a bit of an issue here. Yeah, I think we're going to get a little good old classic retracing of steps. Ultyma checking out that stuff north of CAC. Jinxie doing the eastern area. I don't think either has been to southern Kakariko, which is definitely the most appealing zone that neither player has entered yet. But it could be a minute before we work our way back there. And yeah, I agree. I would totally get the 2 chests that are accessible in Turtle Rock, especially with the information they have that the Meyer Big Key is NTR. So you kind of think there's an elevated chance that one of those items is good. Meyer Big Key is a really good big key to have. But it will be much faster if they get a better weapon. That Ether Medallion on Jinxie's side could be pretty helpful, actually. But we're just going to kind of see what happens. Jinxie did steal the key, and I don't believe Ultyma checked the Flute 5 entrance. So Jinxie heading down that way could give us some new information here. And yeah, Ultyma sticking to a strategy to check a lot of connectors early. Finds this Death Mountain area. We'll see if he does a little more with it than Jinxie did. Jinxie just saw this connector and left. Oh man, that small key to Thieves Town. The hint already told us we don't need it. Okay, and in terms of pokies and medallions, Bombos kills them. It incinerates them, like hitting most enemies with the Fire Rod. Ether freezes them. You can one-shot with the hammer or just kind of wail on them with the sword. Quake stuns like a boomerang stuns a lot of enemies. It actually kind of bugs out their AI. So that's always a funny thing to see. Ultyma found Sahas down here. Not talking to him. You can't bomb open the back of that room as a bunny, but you definitely can talk to Sahas. It'd even be in logic to get his item if you somehow had a green pendant. So we're going to have to live without that information for a little while longer. While Jinxie's working her way south, going south without a glove is traditionally considered a worrying play in this mode because you orphan entrances down here, but if Jinxie's heading toward the desert, it's not that bad of a backtrack, and you are getting to check a majority of your remaining entrances. Instead, though, we're heading east. We're going to get Mini Moldorm Cave, kind of an easy one to orphan. We'll see if Jinxie extends to the Ice Rod Cave area. That is by far the least appealing area to check without a glove, and no, Jinxie just nopes out after discovering the bottom of Spiral Cave, which manages to make Spiral Cave even more unappealing than usual, and Spiral Cave is usually pretty unappealing. So that'll be a bit of nuisance later. Looks like Jinxie is going to check out our shovel for us. Get the lamp. I don't believe we've seen any well, we have seen an in-logic Dark Cave. Because it would be in logic to take the Spectacle Rock Connector to the Turtle Rock Ledge and then walk through the Old Man's Cave. Jinxie doesn't know that's there. But the lamp is just very helpful in general. You can light torches, you can see in the dark. Just kind of makes the game a little easier to play to have. Okay, so we found Aga Tower. Both our runners know that it's extremely unlikely an Aga 1 kill's required. But with no Castle Tower keys, we are going to orphan the second chest in here, which is always a bit unfortunate, but pragmatically, it's very hard not to do that, so I really agree with the decision to just get the one chest you can. What I don't agree with is using spin attacks on these soldiers. With Fighter's Sword, a spin attack does equal damage to a normal sword swing and takes much longer because you have to charge it. So that fight was a fair bit slower than it had to be for Jinxie. But she's through, so we're going to get to keep moving anyway. And we get a big key to Palace of Darkness. It's worth noting, with 2 small keys to pod, and the big key and the lamp, we can make a lot of progress in the Palace of Darkness, so that could be pretty exciting. And while we do have a bottle, we don't yet have any potion. We could buy a red potion from a shop, but that's not a super appealing thing to do this early. We'll see what decisions Jinxie makes here. Finding the hookshot cave. No items here, but this is a connector, so it'll be a little new information for us. Well, Ultyma, I thought, was going to the potion shop, but I wasn't really sure what Ultyma was going for there. But he died, so that was pretty bad. Overworld deaths are very costly because you respawn at your normal spawn points. Well, Jinxie discovered that this is a connector to West Death Mountain, which is a very good connector to find early. Jinxie also took a very slow overworld death, but I would totally expect her to go right back. It's just the place to be, really. With the lamp, you can probably rescue the old man, get an extra save orb, and it's by far the largest remaining concentration of non-mirror block or non-pearl blocked entrances. So it looks like first Jinxie's gonna finish the play on save scumming the Desert Small Key. With Desert's location, this is really logical. If either of these chests have a big item, this could be a big advantage early. Big Key at Swamp Palace is not a big item. That's a fetch quest. And Heart Piece is pretty bad, so I would expect a hard reset, which is what we get, while Ultima's doing some more work for us in the Palace of Darkness. Looks like we have the Desert Small Key from that early work. And we're going to get a play into the back. It's kind of too bad for Ultyma not to have the lamp, given how soon dark rooms will be visited, but these dark rooms aren't really very difficult, especially if there's not going to be a hammer jump this early. So I don't expect too much difficulty. Yep, personally, I would only expect Ultyma to check these 3 easy chests in the back and just not hammer jump yet. See if you get something like a big key to... But different players have different tastes on this, so it'll be a big thing to see what Ultyma decides to do. Yeah, the save and quit's totally what I expected. Well, Jinxie visits my spirit animal in this game, the Grassman. Okay, so an important mental note that, or hopefully a physical note in Jinxie's case, there's Misery Mire on Death Mountain. There's nothing you can do in Mire without the hookshot or the boots to cross the first room, but as soon as you can cross that first room, that opens up a lot. And speaking of things being opened up, there's a fire rod on Spectacle Rock. Now, we already have a connector to Northeast Dark Death Mountain, which is just an area that having a fire or having a mirror does a lot for you. Now we have even more benefits to the mirror. So I would kind of just have this thought in my mind as either of these runners. I'm looking for mirror, and it does a lot for me early. So Jinxie only has one more entrance accessible on Death Mountain until we get blocked out. I think Ultima just entered that southwest door and found Tower of Hera. So between the two of them, we know that the old man is at the Hera entrance, which is conventionally considered pretty annoying, but nothing to be done about it. It's entirely possible for the Fire Rod not to be required. It's hard required for Turtle Rock. It's logically required for Skull Woods. It opens an entrance. It's generally a very good weapon, so it's one of those items you see and you always think, I probably need that. And yeah, if you're a veteran of all the various shenanigans in this game, the only things you will really hard need the Fire Rod for are opening the back of Skull entrance, killing Trinex, and getting those 2 chests in the front of Turtle Rock. Technically, I think you can get those 2 chests in the front of Turtle Rock if you can hover, like, really well, but, I mean, good luck with that. I would be absolutely astounded if I ever saw anyone pull that off in this tournament. Ultima has shown us that this short connector leads to Desert Right. There's always a connector that leads there. It's never too helpful. I wonder if in Jinxie's situation, though, she's just going to jump off and check Agana's cave and the open cave on the way to Desert. Because we don't have a ton of options left. Looks like Jinxie's going to check the West Dark Death Mountain. These are, entrance is extremely unlikely to pay off. Usually when you make this play, you're actually hoping these 2 entrances are nothing, just so you never have to come back to them. The castle could be appealing, though. This is 2 connectors, and if you take an intentional death, you can do a lot of work in this dungeon. So there is kind of a story here with key stealing. We know the hammer is somewhere pretty bad on the Lake Hylia Island. We do have early flippers, which is really important, but we still need the mirror and the pearl. You could consider stealing a key here, or you could just hold out for the hammer and wait to do the back of escape. And yeah, we saw Jinxie orphaned the southwest Dark Death Mountain cave while Ultima checked it, but the cave was nothing important, so this only really hurts Jinxie insofar as she might backtrack to it later. There's a flute, which flute is not super often logically important, especially since we already have West Death Mountain access. But boy, is it convenient. That's going to save Jinxie a lot of time over the course of the seed, finding that in less than a half an hour. While Ultima's about to potion glitch us in pod, gets a hint that the GT big chest isn't important, which could take an annoying backtrack off the table later. And we're about to get some more out-of-logic information here. Oh man, there's a big payoff. Eastern big key. So usually when you find Eastern, you want to do it right away, but you don't. And the worst feeling in the world is not having a bow, finding the Eastern big key, and wondering if you have a fully vanilla bow, because you don't want to go all the way back for one chest. That's a pretty bad scenario Ultima just took off the table with that find. And I think Ultima's going to hard reset this vanilla big key chest if it's nothing good. Smart use of the extra pod key, assuming that's the plan. And yeah, a map is... We don't even see which map it was, just instant reset. Well, yeah, I mean, everyone dislikes going in with bow and no big key more. The worst is when you go in with neither, and then soon thereafter you find just the big key and you still don't have the bow. So you have to make the decision to go back, still not able to full clear just for one chest. That's the real Eastern Palace Nightmare scenario, and it just went off the table. Yeah, it looks like Jinxie's gonna retrace Ultima's footsteps through the castle area, whereas Ultima's wrapping up the southern CAC area. We're gonna see Ultima kill some of these guards as well. Oh, the dark cave at the castle is the back of the old man, so we're finding an alternate way to that Turtle Rock ledge. Fairly convenient. But this also means that the Mountain Cave save warp is of questionable utility, to say the least. Ultima doing a couple classic frustration slashes. Very unhappy to see the pod big key right after putting so much work into pod. But Ultima still hasn't hammer jumped, and assuming Ultima's going to go check out the shovel and get the lamp, I actually think it'll be a very easy call to just go back, hammer jump, and get those 3 chests. The flute is in the front of escape, logically behind the Hyrule Castle small key that we have yet to see. Well, Jinxie's making early use of the flute to kind of take off. Of note, both players got flippers on Death Mountain, and neither has elected to do the flipper stuff. Flippers give access to 3 static overworld items: Hobo, King Zora, Zora Ledge, and open up 2 entrances, so Flippers definitely seem like the big play to make. Jinxie takes a death to a crab. Those crabs are very powerful. 2 hearts of damage for reasons that probably only make sense to Nintendo. But it is what it is. And yeah, the other problem with 3 hearts, Ultyma just failed the hammer jump. That put Ultyma down to 1 heart, because a heart from getting hit with your own bomb and another heart for falling in the pit. And that's that. You can't hammer jump again without dying. Ultima's gonna make lemons out of lemonade and check this chest, probably. Find the ice rod. Oh. Oh, that's a decision. Hard resetting the ice rod. That's probably the right call. That's a tough call to make, though. You know where the ice rod is, so you can go back for it. It's not what I would call a short walk, though. Ice rod is probably required, but if Turtle Rock's a pendant, then it's probably not required. Kind of one of those agonizing finds right there. Yeah, Jinxie has pivoted to doing all the flipper stuff, while Ultima's kind of playing a bit of entrance catch-up. Finding out what's in a couple of these caves. None of these caves have anything too exciting, really. We do find the old man at the Tower of Hera, as we would expect. We know the old man save warp's not really going to help us at all this run, but this will be an item. And with the flute, Jinxie can get back on her route very easily. So all around, this is a little convenience. Okay, sorry for that little bit of a disruption. Had a little bit of a tech problem on my end, but I'm back, and I don't think missed anything too exciting. We're about to get a, no doubt, really high-value purchase from King Zora. Oh man, look at that. Only 500 rupees for the critical information of where the next progression item isn't. Truly, King Zora is a man of infinite value. Jinxie locating Thieves Town. Very interesting find. We still need the Thieves' Big Key to finish this dungeon, but given that we know the big chest is bad, as soon as we find the Thieves' Big Key, there's really no reason to hold off on finishing. The boss here, if you have a sword, this boss is just completely free no matter what. Okay, so yeah, that is true. Ultyma does have the big key to Thieves Town, and since we found the small key to Thieves Town, it's pretty credible that more progression's in the back. Jinxie just needs to go back to Palace of Darkness, a play that she hasn't chosen to make yet. With the big key, the lamp, and 3 small keys, going back to Pod is pretty appealing though, so I would expect that play before too much longer. Honestly, given what we've seen between both sides, I would be pretty heavily surprised if the answer to progression is not in the back of Thieves Town. Yeah, it's true that there could be some bunny walk nonsense, but I'm a firm believer, always bet on the answer not being bunny walk nonsense, because it probably isn't. And yeah, Thieves Town might seem scary. You're in the 4th out of 7 Dark World dungeons. You only have 3 hearts. But honestly, this isn't very difficult. This dungeon is a very easy dungeon. The boss here is totally free if you have a sword, which we do. I have every bit of confidence Ultyma's just going to tear through this place with no real problem. And no, if this were inverted nonsense, you'd be forced to do this fight with the hammer, which is about 1,000,000 times harder than doing this fight with the sword. I mean, Samaria blind is at least easy. Hammer blind is like literally the whole reason I don't play inverted is because I don't want to do 3-heart hammer blind. Any other weapon but hammer, I don't care. Just please not hammer blind. And yeah, we see Ultyma working toward that back of Thieves area, not finding a lot in the first chest. That extra heart container is probably not completely unwanted. Well, Jinxie's diving into bunny walk nonsense, not really getting paid off. Ultyma's electing not to check the hint in Thieves. I think that's justifiable. Ultyma's already seen a lot of the better types of hints, so the remaining hints are probably not particularly good, and That's one of the slower hint tiles to check as well, so a lot of good arguments for skipping that one, I would say. Ultyma also showing that immediate awareness that you cannot lift that block without a glove. It's not really that much slower to go around like this, but it's really easy to just make the mistake and try to pick up that block when you can't. So yeah, that Hera Big Key seems probably like a pretty critical item. We have logical access to the Tower of Hera, so that's 3 more items. And remember, we can kill that boss. So we're actually going to have 2 in-logic boss kills very early. Of course, looking at the tracker, Ultyma doesn't have the Thieves' Small Key, so he doesn't know about the logical path to finish this. But we know it's somewhere he can get it, so from our perspective as viewers, this is a logical play for Ultyma. And anyone who is rooting for the massive troll that would be Moon Pearl Pedestal, the odds of that already unlikely thing just plummeted even more as we learned that Thieves Town is a crystal. And yeah, I would totally expect Ultyma to just go straight back to Tower of Hera. Moldorm's a little annoying with Fighter's Sword, no boots, no hammer, but he's not that bad. And I'm sure Ultyma can handle the fight. We know the hammer is on the Hylia Island, so really your big questions here are where are Moon Pearl and where are Mir? Because Moon Pearl and Mir both open that world conventionally. Mir gets us Fire Rod, and both Moon Pearl and Mir together will get us Hammer. So Moon Pearl, Mir, Hammer, Fire Rod likely are all going to come in kind of a big cluster, and it's going to make the game a lot easier for our runners as soon as they hit that treasure trove waiting. Okay, Jinxie's finally making the play back to Palace of Darkness. This is going to get the Thieves' Big Key that we currently believe is on the critical logic path. Even if it's not the immediate progression, it's very important because we know Thieves is a crystal. And then we know Hera has the Cane of Samaria. One of those not necessarily required, but probably required items. Well, Ultima misses the bomb jump. This is really painful. So I'm thinking about what that red cane does for us. With what we've seen, it only opens one chest, because we've seen the front of Turtle Rock. I think that was in Light World, so that'll get us one chest there. But it also has a lot of long-term value, so that's pretty exciting. And yeah, that thing Ultima's doing where he keeps falling down this middle hole and falling 2 floors, it's really slow, so he should stop doing that. Oh man, Jinxie's having just as many struggles with the hammer jump as Ultima did. Like, you don't really have a lot of margin to fail the trick. With this low of health. And kind of the doubly bad part here is Jinxie just saved after having spent all of the pod small keys. So Jinxie doesn't know that the vanilla big key chest isn't important. And Jinxie does not have a spare key to use should the bow and hammer become available to go kill the boss. That could make some problems down the line here. Well, we see Moldorm go down, and Ultima gets 3 bombs and another crystal. So Samaria is the only immediately valuable progression we found up here. But having 2 early crystals is not the worst feeling in the world. You need 7 anyway, and that's some good progress. Yeah, we've actually seen every entrance in Turtle Rock other than Laser Bridge. It's just we don't have Turtle Rock big keys, so the big chest entrance isn't important. The eye lasers could be important, but that has nothing to do with the Cane of Samaria. I don't believe either player has made the play to chain chomps. Both could have, and I just think neither did. Jinxie pulls off the hammer jump. No value in the big chest, but we have 2 more chests coming here in pod. These are, of course, out of logic without all 6 pod small keys, but definitely still worth picking up. Get them off your list. Turns out they weren't very good. The heart container was... Well, actually, the map to Ice Palace is probably the best one. But just not a lot you're going to be too thrilled to find there. So Jinxie picks up a potion as well. Might be planning to do the potion glitch in pod, or might just want a potion. Yeah, Jinxie's making the play for Thieves Town on that same path that will ultimately lead to 2 crystals in the Cane of Samaria. Assuming this is the critical path, that puts Ultima with somewhat of a lead, though I feel Jinxie has very little of the world left to check other than this path, while Ultima has plays like Zora here that he doesn't know aren't going to pay off, but we know they won't. I believe the only entrances we can still check are all bunny stuff. Like, I don't think we've seen the Bomb Shop, Swamp Palace, Northwest, Dark Lake, Hylia entrances. Pretty long bunny walk, but it's a thing they could do if they really wanted to. Okay, so the hint that Ultyma skip tells us that the Mire entrance is useless. That's a fairly decent hint. Really further reduces the value of medallions this seed. While Ultyma has made his way to the front of Turtle Rock, I'm very interested to see what's in this chest. Because we've basically had a long series of progressions seemingly leading to this point. Okay, big key to this dungeon opens 2 chests right away. Because we've also seen the big chest, and you can get that big chest and also get the crystal roller room. Now, what you can't do is this room without the fire rod. Just isn't how this game works. So, Ultima's gonna have to take this big key and be happy. Oh man, that's a bad death Jinxie just took. That is just a very deep room. Just a tough death all around. Kind of got cornered by the, I believe Zyzak is what that enemy is called. It's just, that's a tough situation and a pretty substantial time loss. While the evidence is kind of still suggesting that this path, do thieves, do Hera, use your cane, is probably what we need in our lives right now. Of note, we do know somewhere in Turtle Rock is the Mire Big Key. That does nothing for us right now, but if we get the boots or the hook shot, full clearing Mire is going to suddenly be on the table as long as we can pull that out of Turtle Rock. And we definitely can pull it out of Turtle Rock. There's just decisions that are going to have to be made with keys. Because the key you take from this guy can be used to check this chest right away, or it could be taken to go to Laser Bridge. Honestly, I personally probably would have taken a death and walked back, because certainly that bottle is not worth using a key. But there are 4 Turtle Rock small keys out there, so it might not even end up being important. Oh man, Ultyma taking a death too. The Chomp Room with low health and poor equipment, it can be really tricky. But it's pretty important because that room is in logic with absolutely nothing. So if you're just kind of learning this mode, this is kind of one of the early areas I would suggest working on. While Jinxie's giving up on thieves, this could be really bad for Jinxie. Like, I understand giving up. Like, Jinxie took something like 3 bad deaths in a row there. But I don't know what other plays she really has. Certainly none of her remaining plays are appealing. While the Chomps are just taking a bite out of Ultyma. Pretty tough. And yeah, totally, I think the red boomerang and just a little more caution in general could help Ultyma here. One of the big sort of tricks to the Chomp Room, if you just want to not die, is you just hug the left wall, and the Chomps have a very hard time hitting you. Oh, the book. That's really interesting. So that opens another entrance. Doesn't really do anything else for us. If we get another sword, it would open the Ether Monolith. We have everything else we need to get up there. Though obviously you'd really prefer to go back up there. With the mirror, so you could pick up Fire Rod in the same trip. And yeah, neither runner... Well, there we go. Jinxie taking advantage of the Ether Medallion. Ether, unfortunately, doesn't affect the Skull guys, which is always annoying, but... Oh, you don't want to hit that guy up there. But the Pokey not moving and not having a hitbox is definitely a big help. So it looks like Ultima's making the play back for Hammer Jump. We know that this isn't too valuable, just another heart container, but I guess in his mind, this is 3 reasonably quick items. With 5 hearts, the Hammer Jump is just a lot less problematic all around. Wait, Ultima just hard reset after the Hammer Jump? I mean, none of those items were critical, but you didn't spend anything to get there. It's not even faster. That's... I mean, the long-term bigger deal is losing the Ice Palace map, which could have told you if ice was a pendant or crystal. Like, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but just a kind of strange decision on Ultima's part. Oh, here's a really significant find. The book leads to Eastern Palace, and of particular note is that Ultima's potion glitch means he'll have the big key for this, so he'll get one more check here than Jinxie will. The big chest isn't in logic, but if it's something important, it's just going to be a massive convenience to get it now instead of having to wait for the bow. But yeah, I think a lot of players who've played a lot of this mode do kind of like to talk about how much they don't like Eastern because it's almost never an easy decision whether you go in and risk having to backtrack or not. But in this situation with so little of the world left, I feel like making the dive into Eastern was actually a very easy decision, even though so far it's not really paying off. That hint there about where the skull big key is isn't what I'd call a particularly great hint. Maybe it makes you wait to check out the front of Skull Woods until you've gotten the hammer so you can just guarantee yourself the skull big key before you do the front of Skull. It's about the only use of that hint I can imagine. And yeah, sewers would include Dark Cross, so that's totally a possibility. What ended up happening with Eastern, though, is that there's nothing in here at all. A lot of bombs, rupees, and I think a heart piece. Pretty disappointing dungeon all around. Yeah, Jinxie's going back for Thieves Town. Definitely an easy to agree with decision. Whether this Cane of Samaria is on the critical path or not, I don't think there's any way around the fact that getting 2 crystals in the red cane is a lot more advantageous than just not getting those things. Yeah, and this time Jinxie's being a lot more willing to just rely on the cape to get through these rooms. With half magic, I think that's a really good decision. Like, you can cape through almost this entire dungeon with half magic. And I mean, you just need to not die, right? Don't die and you'll win. So Ultima was probably immediately frustrated upon seeing this entrance but then immediately relieved to discover it only had the Thieves' small key, which really doesn't mean anything to him other than that it's crystal from blinds and logic. And speaking of dying, oh man. Jinxy. You gotta... It's hard as a player. You take a lot of deaths in the same place, and like you just know it's where you need to be. And you start making more mistakes. Like, I can almost guarantee that if Jinxy hadn't died 3 other times in this dungeon, that she wouldn't have died there. But when you've died a lot of times in the same dungeon, you get nervous, you start hesitating, and that was a hesitation death is what that was. If she'd just been wailing on the sword, that guy never could have hit her, but because she was trying to be careful and wasn't acting quickly, he got a chance to fire, and Dark World enemies hit hard. But yeah, Jinxy seems about done taking chances, drinking the potion, going back to the boomerang. Like, just be as cautious as you gotta be. Just be sure that this is your last trip into Thieves. I think that's the strategy here, and it's definitely the right approach to take after what events have transpired here. So we see Ultyma going back to the castle. I think he's just going to check it for connectors. Oh, Jinxy. Another death to that red Zyzak down in the basement. Like, there's not really much to say. Jinxy just has to play precisely, play carefully, and power through this. It seems very likely that this is on the path required, because it's very hard to think where the next important progression item could be if not behind the Turtle Rock Big Key that this all eventually leads to. So yeah, Ultima is just continuing to work on, I think, checking the castle as a connector, just general exploration, while Jinxy's Thieves Town plight continues. So that's not a useless find, logically, seeing that spit out at Mimic Cave. What that tells Ultima is that everything in the castle is in logic. Well, at least the Dark Cross in the first chest here. Oh, man. Ultima, come on, dude. Walking all the way to the left side to take the left hallway? Take the right hallway, man. But Ultima's slow route through the castle aside, has gotten the Hera Big Key, which is the important thing in this dungeon. So even if she dies again, she can just leave and go to Hera and will be on the critical path. Easily going to get blind return from here. And if she can clutch out this fight with her little bit of magic and 5 hearts, 6 hearts, even better. She's going to have a crystal, and will never have to come back to Thieves Town again, which right now I don't think she ever wants to see this dungeon. And Jinxie taking advantage of a minor cape glitch. If you grab a wall while invincible with the cape, your magic drain halts. That allowed Jinxie to sort of tank through the fireball phases without even having to dodge. Definitely a good safety strat if you're not feeling confident in the fight. And thanks to the second red potion, Jinxie did down blind and has claimed her first crystal. I bet that's a huge exhale from Jinxie, and we are not going to see Thieves Town again for the rest of this stream. Well, the big chest we know from a hint is, I think, 20 rupees. So if we see that big chest, then one of our runners has made a very large mistake. Both of them have seen the hint. It was just in CAC. Oh, I'm sorry. It was only a quarter as good as I thought. I thought it was a big 20. It was a small 5. I know Ultyma with his 720 rupees would be really hurt if he only got a 5 rupee from a chest instead of a 20. I'm going to be honest, when I'm playing, when I get hints at a particular item spot is a heart piece, a heart container, 3 bombs, 10 arrows, or any amount of rupees, or a compass for that matter, they're all the same item in my head. That item I don't want to find. Hey, the Mirror Shield is a really good item for the purpose of killing the Mimics in Ganon's Tower, and for doing basically nothing else. Okay, so the Turtle Rock big chest entrance was in Dark World. So this big chest itself isn't in Logic. However, the Crystal Roller Room is in Logic because you could have killed the Pokies and come from the other entrance. So this is definitely the better way to route it, even though it's through Dark World, just because it lets you mark this chest off your list. And it's gotta be some weird bunny walk nonsense if there's nothing important in this chest. So we're all kind of holding our breath for this one. Okay, the map of Palace of Darkness. That's definitely what we need at the end of our long logic sequence. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's bunny walking. I can't think of any other plays that haven't been checked by either runner. Ultima seems just lost, not even sure where to begin. Like what you got to do is there's a connector in CAC that goes to the Village of Outcast. Use it, drop into East or South Dark World. That's the main place we have entrances that no one's walked into. And honestly, even if you have absolutely no clue where you haven't checked, at this point, a fairly stable play would be just going to Skull Woods and clearing out front of Skull. It's totally not in logic, but they're items you can easily get. And like, what else are you doing right now? Use it as time to think and plan what you're going to do in logic while getting the easy out of logic items. So the Moon Pearl has to be somehow accessed via a Dark World entrance. I believe we've taken every connector we've seen. I believe we've checked everything we could access through the Light World. So it's got to be a bunny walk, and I believe a majority of the bunny accessible entrances we haven't been in are in South Dark World. There's a connector in Kakariko that leads to the Village of Outcast. You can just go there, drop down the ledge, and that's 4 bunny entrances. Doing bunny logic isn't really anyone's favorite option, but sometimes it's the option you have. And Ultima not thinking what he needs to do is totally flipping things on its head. Jinxie died 6 times in Thieves Town. And assuming that this South Dark World plays the logic, Jinxie's in the lead. So this is a big deal. Jinxie getting a lesson that the bunny cannot use the magic cape. The only things the bunny is able to do are talk to NPCs, push blocks, buy items from shops, use the mirror or bottles. All other Y and A items are inaccessible to the bunny. And here we have Paradox Cave. Now, what Jinxie should do is take the northern exit and see if it spits her out in Light World, then go right back in. We know there's a glove in this cave from a hint. Well, the bad news is that's not Light World. The good news is that this is more bunny accessible entrances and a free item. Don't die to this bouncing dude. And okay, Jinxie avoided him and found an ever valuable compass. But this isn't all bad because one of these entrances over here in East Dark World could be the answer by logic. There's not a lot left, and there's 3 accessible entrances here. For anyone unaware, Kiki the monkey just doesn't spawn for the bunnies, so the Palace of Darkness entrance is not available. And yeah, that's very unusual and very unfavorable movement of the Snapdragon for Jinxie. I haven't seen that either, but that was really unlucky. And honestly, with how long the walk was to get here, I think totally the right call to play it safe and play it slow instead of trying to sneak past, and would have died if that Snapdragon landed a hit. Oh man, Super Bunny Cave as a bunny. So, the two chests in here aren't in logic, but this is called Super Bunny Cave for a reason. It's very easy to do this cave as a bunny and get the items, and for all we know, the other side spits us out on Light World anyway, which would put this in logic. Just be careful not to die, it's a long way back. So, Swamp Small Key doesn't progress us for a multitude of reasons, but it's really nice to have. One of those items that's usually required in every seed. And we have looped back to Northwest Dark World. Oh man, Ultima's getting to have a party with these guys. The Murderdactyl and the Snapdragon really were going to work on him. Good avoidance to find the Sick Kid. This is an in-logic mirror from Sick Kid at Dark Flute 5 sequential Dark World connectors. That also puts the Fire Rod in logic. The Fire Rod opens 2 more items in Turtle Rock. Let's go. Yes, the bunny is able to push blocks freely and easily. And yeah, mirroring on top of the pyramid is a really appealing option here. With the cape, all 3 of those entrances are available in logic. And with what we've seen, it's pretty conceivable one of them's important. We just learned that the Magic Bat, who's behind Aga 2, has a compass, so that's not too exciting or important. Ultyma playing games with the Ropa here. Manages to avoid it as well. Okay, we learn Ice Palace is green pendant, Pod is red pendant, Skull and Turtle Rock are crystals. So that Fire Rod is absolutely required this seed. But we find, I think everyone's favorite entrance in this game, the Turtle Rock Laser Bridge. Oh, by the way, since we know we can access Fire Rod and Ice Rod, we could fight early Trinex. And the Desert Big Key puts Landmo in logic. There's all kinds of fun that just keeps coming here. So Jinxie finds Ganon's tower. This is going to be only 3 chests. The 2 easy chests, and then GT Tile Room is available. Jinxie could do some shenanigans with bomb jumps to do full right side with the lamp. but I don't imagine we're going to be seeing that. In fact, we're not even seeing Tile Room, which is a bit of a surprising decision, I would say. Oh no, Jinxie just forgot for a minute. She's going right back. Like, you gotta check Tile Room while you're here. Okay, Ultima seems a little unsure of what to do, but there's a couple pretty good options open to him with this mirror. He can go pick up the Fire Rod. He has a ton of mirror accessible entrances, including the entire East Death Mountain. He could go kill Landmalus, which it looks like is the play he's going to choose. Personally, I would have picked up the Fire Rod before fighting Landmo, because the Fire Rod will speed up the boss greatly. And it looks like GT Tile Room was the boots. That's a really worthwhile find. The bunny can't dash with the boots, and it looks like we have a lot more bunny walking to go, but very convenient item. Also tells Jinxie straight up that the boots do not block the Moon Pearl, which is important information, because where is the Moon Pearl is the question of our lives right now. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty annoying Landmalus fight for Ultima. Fighter Sword and Red Cane, really nothing else of interest. Yeah, Jinxie has to make her way back to Dark Flute 5 in order to get the mirror. It's a really long walk. Ultima being more cautious about taking the connectors definitely paid off here. Oh man, Jinxie sequence breaking a Turtle Rock small key. Will Jinxie be tempted? You can't do this as a bunny, Jinxie. It's not how the game works. But yeah, will Jinxie be tempted to go for Laser Bridge from the front? Oh, would you look at that? Hook shot and Desert Big Chest. Now the seed's really starting to move for Ultima. So that hook shot will let us get all 4 items in Hook Shot Cave. Gives us another way of accessing East Death Mountain as well. Yep, lets us access and full clear Misery Mire. Well, We still don't have the Mire Big Key. At this point, we know it has to be Fire Rod locked in Turtle Rock, though, because we've seen all the other Misery Mire chests. So, yeah, what could be a pretty good play for Ultyma would be pick up the Fire Rod, go get the Mire Big Key, and go and just clear Misery Mire. Just do it. Looks like we're going to see a little bit of East Death Mountain with the hook shot. I don't really like checking it like this because you could check more of East Death Mountain with your connectors and mirror, but we're in the area and we're going to learn a little. Oh, there's another one of our friendly connectors. Always find the connector in Cave 3 of 4 just to make it a little less efficient for you. So yeah, it looks like Jinxie's on the right path to get the mirror. It's just a very long bunny walk, and she explored some other options that I believe Ultyma had checked earlier. But this should put her on what we believe is the path through the seed. Lead her to the mirror, which will in turn relatively quickly lead her to the hook shot. Oh man, Ultima's frustrated at that sword because he knows what that sword means. That means both monoliths are in logic. The Moon Pearl at the Bombos monolith would be really annoying. Now, Trinex isn't in logic because the Ice Rod is logically behind all 6 Palace of Darkness small keys, but Trinex is very doable if Ultima does go pick up the Ice Rod, so that could be an interesting decision. So we get our GT key supply out of Hookshot Cave. It's worth noting that as soon as we get the Moon Pearl, we can get the hammer. So this is telling me that as soon as you get Moon Pearl, you need to go to Ganon's Tower. Ultima, of course, doesn't know where Ganon's Tower is, but could be handy. Jinxie picking up a fairy from this very rarely visited fairy room. I actually don't think I've ever seen anyone enter that room, but it's good game knowledge to know it's there. Looks like Ultima's just going to make the play to kill Moth. It's not in logic without all the Skull small keys, but that's not really that big of a deal.